Hello everyone, Ater here with Blade RC, and today I'm super excited because I'm going to be sharing with you Blade's newest release. And as you can see by the picture of the helicopter on the box, this isn't your typical everyday collective pitch helicopter that you might expect from Blade. That's right, this is something all new, and it is the Blade Eclipse 360. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and unbox this helicopter so you all can see what you're gonna get in the box with the Eclipse 360. And then we're gonna talk about some of its features and what makes it so unique. All right, so with the back side of the box right here, we can go ahead and pull these two tabs like so. Open this cover and pop open the box. So like always, on top, you're gonna see the Eclipse 360 manual. And on the first page, you will likely see the instructions on how to install the optional wheels that are going to be included in the box. And other than that, basically just give this manual a read through. You can definitely learn a lot about the helicopter, including the setup on your Spectrum transmitters. Removing the top foam piece right here, you can see the Eclipse 360 is packaged nicely in the box, along with a couple of other contents, and that's going to include your foam blade holder, and also the optional wheels, and some extra zip ties, some tools to work on the Eclipse 360, and some Velcro for your batteries, as well as electronics tape right here. Typically this is used for helping secure wires, and right here is going to be for mounting your flybarless unit. So if for whatever reason you need to remove the flybarless unit, you have an extra piece of 3M tape in order to reinstall it on the helicopter. And last but certainly not least, we have the Eclipse 360. With the Eclipse 360 added to the Blade lineup, pilots can get an innovative blend of futuristic looks and high performance to deliver a unique helicopter flying experience. The first feature worth mentioning on the Eclipse 360 is that it is a fully collective pitch helicopter, so it's designed to be capable of smooth hovering plus scale-like and sport flying for intermediate pilots, yet is also capable of aerobatics and even mild 3D in the hands of experienced pilots. The body on the Eclipse 360 is a fully molded and painted EPO body that also features LED navigation and landing lights, resulting in a super lightweight yet durable design. The factory installed and expertly tuned Spectrum FC6250HX flybarless unit allows for the Eclipse 360 to have a brushless tail motor in order to keep the parts down and also provide a scale look. One thing that I find really cool about the Eclipse 360 is that you have two options of landing skids, and both are included in the box. The first option that you're going to see is the low profile skids, which are already installed on the helicopter out of the box, and those provide a very simple yet sleek look to the Eclipse 360. The second option that you're going to see is the included wheel set. Now that's going to provide a more scale look and also some unique ground handling capabilities. Now that you've gotten a close-up look of the Eclipse 360 and heard some of its key details, let's go ahead and configure our transmitter for this helicopter and get it bounced up. So as you can see here, I have the Spectrum NX20. This will also work with IX transmitters, so if you want to follow along, it's just going to be a little bit different with the IX transmitters since you have a touchscreen, but everything is going to be pretty much the exact same. So again, I have the Spectrum NX20. I also have a Spectrum 3-cell 2200 milliamp G2 battery that I'm going to be using to power on this helicopter. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and configure the transmitter for this helicopter. Following along with the manual, the first thing that you're going to do is create a new model and just make sure that the model type is selected to the helicopter. And there we go. We can go down to model name and we can change this to Eclipse 360. With the model name set to Eclipse 360, we can go back. Now the first thing that we're going to want to do is go to the F mode setup right here. We are going to want to make sure that switch 1 is set to switch B, and usually it is the default, so we can skip past that. And for the hold switch, we want switch H, which is back here. So all you have to do is activate the hold switch function, and then you can just flip whatever switch you want it to be. In this instance, we want it to be switch H. Going back to the list, we can now go down to channel assign, and in the channel input configuration menu, we can go to channel 5, and we want to change this to flight mode. So if you scroll all the way over back to inhibit, if you go over 1, it should say F mode. Now that that's good, we can go back to our list and we can actually go back to the main screen. Back at the main menu, press the scroll wheel in order to enter the function list, and here we can go to rates and expo. So right here is your dual rates and your expo for your ailerons, also your elevator and your rudder. You can set this to whatever you would like in terms of expo. The manual calls for 25% expo on aileron and elevator and 45% expo on the rudder. So here, I'm just gonna leave this at 100%. You can also activate, according to the manual, you can activate switch F in order to access your dual rates and expo. So at the flip of the switch, you can essentially change what you want your rates and expo to be. Typically on a low rate switch, you can set 75% right here. So for this instance, you could set 75% and we'll do 25% expo right here. And then if you switch down, you could do 100% and maybe 40% expo. This is all depending on the pilot. Typically, I just like to leave dual rates switch just to be on. So typically I don't have any dual rates with a helicopter. It's just gonna be all 100%. But again, this can vary with the pilot. But I am going to change the aileron to 25% expo. We'll do 25% expo on the elevator. And 45% expo on the rudder. At the main menu again, press the scroll wheel and go down to throttle curve. Here's where we are going to set our throttle curves for normal, stunt 1, and stunt 2. Keep in mind you want hold mode to be 0% across the board because whenever hold mode is activated, you do not want any throttle. So as per the manual, we are going to have 0 for point 1. For point 2, we are going to increase this to 50. For point 3, we are going to increase to 63. Point 4 is going to be 75, and point 5 is going to be 90. So keep in mind this is for normal mode, and since we have somewhat of a linear curve, basically we have 0% in the throttle. So whenever the throttle is all the way down, there's going to be no throttle. This is for stability mode, which is normal mode. So the helicopter in normal mode is going to self-level. You won't be able to flip it over. Going into stunt 1, we want 90% across the board. So basically in stunt 1, it is going to change the flight mode to agility mode. In other words, the helicopter can flip over, and since it is collective pitch, you can actually fly it upside down if the throttle curve is flat, like we were about to do so here. So basically, no matter where your throttle stick is, you are going to be at 90% throttle. And for stunt 2, which is also agility mode, we are going to have a flat curve of 100%. So basically, it's almost like stunt 1, but you're gonna have a little bit more throttle. And just like that, we have our throttle curve set. Again, as you can see here in normal or stability mode, you have 0, 50, 63, 75, and 90% throttle. Stunt 1 is going to be a flat curve of 90% throttle, and stunt 2 is going to be a flat curve of 100% throttle. So basically, again, stunt 2 is just like stunt 1 in the sense that it is agility mode. It's just going to give the helicopter a little bit more head speed. Next, we can now set our pitch curve. So just below throttle curve, you will see pitch curve. Keep in mind, these two are very different curves, so just make sure you're not entering a pitch curve value for the throttle curve or vice versa. So here we are setting up pitch curve. So I'm going to select pitch curve. Now for normal mode, since we do have a linear throttle, we are going to be powering down all the way. So we don't want full 0%, which would be a lot of negative pitch, basically putting stress on the helicopter whenever you're trying to land. Since you don't need that much negative pitch, we are going to go into normal mode right here, and we are actually going to increase 0.1 to 30%. Now that we have 30% for 0.1, we can change 0.2 to 40%. And we can leave 0.3 at 50, 0.4 at 75, and 0.5 at 100. Now, since we are wanting full collective pitch range for agility mode, we can leave stunt 1 and stunt 2 as they are at 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. Hold mode, we can change to what is just like stability mode, which is 30. 40, 50, 75, 100. And just like that, the pitch curve is set. And the last thing that we are going to set up in the transmitter is the panic button. Yes, the Eclipse 360 has safe, so it does have a panic recovery, which will be done through the button right here. So pressing the scroll wheel, we are going to go down to mixing. Right here, we can go to mix 1. We are going to set it as a normal mix. The master value right here, we are going to change to I. For the slave channel, we can select gear. Now, the first rate is going to be 0%. The second rate is going to be negative 125%. The offset is going to be 100%. And for the switch, all you have to do is select it with the scroll wheel so it is darkened like so, and press the bind button. As you can see, that will change it to switch I, and here we have our mix set for the panic recovery. With the transmitter configured for the Eclipse 360, we can now bind the helicopter to the transmitter. So what you're going to do is take your battery, plug it in, and right here you have your SRXL2. Just hold that button down and you will see a flashing light, which means it is in bind mode. So now here on the transmitter, we can press and hold down the bind button while turning on the transmitter. And just like that, the helicopter is bound. And as you can see here, the telemetry on the NX20 is going to auto-configure itself. So this helicopter is packed with all of the smart telemetry data. As you can see right here, we have our smart telemetry, and we also have our ESC status. So as you saw, whenever the Eclipse 360 bounced up to the transmitter, it auto-configured itself for the smart telemetry. But we're going to fine-tune it a little bit so then you can get a proper reading of the head speed from the Eclipse 360. So what we are going to do is tap on the scroll wheel again to go down to the telemetry right here. Now we are going to go to Smart ESC, so just double tap it. And as you can see here, we want the total number of cells to be 3. The low voltage alarm, we can actually decrease this to 3.2 volts per cell. And we can leave everything alone until we get to the poles. The pole count for this motor is going to be 8. The ratio is going to be 9.64 to 1. Now that we have the ratio and pole count of the motor set in the Smart ESC section of the telemetry, we now have a proper reading of the head speed on the Eclipse 360. One thing to also keep in mind, if you are using an IX transmitter and you are in the telemetry option, make sure that whenever you are configuring something, there should be a save option. So just make sure that you save it before you back out of this screen right here, or else anything that you entered down here will not be saved. With the Spectrum transmitter configured and bound to the Eclipse 360, the last thing to do is to Maiden the helicopter. So I will see you all at the field where I'm going to be putting my first flight in on the Blade Eclipse 360. Here we are out at the field with the Blade Eclipse 360, and it's time for its maiden flight. So you can see I have a camera hooked up so you can see the stick movements, basically just to see how responsive it is. As per the manual on this, I have 25% expo on the aileron and elevator and 45% expo on the rudder. And I have 100% all around dual rates. So without further ado, let's fly the Eclipse 360. We're going to be taking off in normal mode. This is also stability mode, so the helicopter is going to self-level. I can already tell right off the bat this thing is smooth. We're just gonna fly around a little bit. Now, I haven't flown a lot of scale helicopters, but right off the bat, if I had to guess how one would fly, this would probably be it. It feels a lot bigger than what it is. And honestly, that tail holds really well for a tail motor. You know, even though it's not mechanical, it is a separate tail motor, and I mean, you can see that's hands off. Not too much movement right there. Thing looks really cool. I like the lights on it too. It's got the nav lights and then also the landing light and the light on the tail. I'm not gonna lie, in my personal opinion, I really like the look of this helicopter in the air compared to the ground. The ground I was a little bit skeptical just because of the look, but once you get it flying in the sun, going off of that dark body, it really shows up. It honestly looks almost UAV-like. Wow, this thing's cool. What do you say we go into stunt 1 here? So the head speed is a little bit higher, and we are now in agility mode, so stability mode is off, so the helicopter will not self-level. So we'll get this thing moving a little bit. Not bad, this is cool. That tail really holds up for this helicopter. Let's try stunt 2. A little bit more power. See if we can get this thing moving. Thing's pretty quick. Wow. Oh, that's cool. Almost like a half Puro flip. Now that's not very scale, but look out for that airplane over there. Wow, this thing is smooth, like really smooth. Come back into a hover. We'll go back into stunt 2. Just get it right in front of us for a cool little hover. There's a little bit of wind out here, but honestly, it's holding up to it pretty well. This thing is cool. Go back into normal mode right here, so back into stability mode. It's so cool. Honestly, I feel like I'm gonna really like flying this thing in stability mode. You know, the auto level, it really helps. And I believe I heard our 5-minute timer, so let's go ahead and bring this thing in. I really like the sound of it too. That's one thing that I forgot to point out. The sound amplifies through the body of the Eclipse, and honestly, it sounds really cool. All right, so with the helicopter landed and still plugged in, it was a 5-minute flight that I had, and scrolling over, you can see that there were 0 fades and 0 holds, so that's always good to see. We can go over to our minimums and maximums. So you can see 10.8 was our minimum, so I'm guessing we'll have around 11 or so volts. Yeah, 11.4 volts. So as you can see on a 5-minute flight, we probably have about, if I had to guess, like, 30 to 35%, which is honestly really good for a 5-minute flight on a scale helicopter like this. And keep in mind, this is a 2200 milliamp 3-cell battery. You can put a 3200 milliamp up there in order to increase your flight time. So yeah, this is really cool. I'm super excited to get some more flights on this one. Thanks for watching the unboxing, first look, transmitter setup, and the Maiden of the Blade Eclipse 360. Be sure to check the description for links and more information on this helicopter. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next one.